this is Michael Hart of Elim Counselling Services, and today I would like to share with you 6 thought patterns that make you depressed. Psychologists have studied depression and have come up with a number of what they call cognitive distortions that are behind depression. These are what I have found to be the most common ones that I see in my practice as a psychotherapist. The first thought pattern that I find in depressed individual is that there is a tendency to predict negatively, what we call negative prediction. So if there is an event that is about to happen, they're about to meet with their boss for an interview, they're actually predicting ahead of time that they are going to be fired. And this negative prediction sets off chemical reactions in their body that ends up changing their mood over time. So if you are listening to this podcast and you can identify this or with any of the other cognitive distortions, then it's very important for you to think about changing the way you think, because this can actually change your life. So negative prediction is the first one. The second prediction is what we call overgeneralization. So overgeneralization is that when one thing happened and you use that to make a global statement about yourself. For example, you burn the toast and you go from there to I am a terrible mom. Or you fail an exam and you go, I am stupid, I will never amount to anything. And so one thing that is in one area of your life becomes overgeneralized to mean that you're just terrible in every way. And then the third pattern of negative thinking is what we call catastrophization. And catastrophization, as the name suggests, is when you make a catastrophe out of simple things. So it could be that you are called to a meeting by your boss, let's use that example, and you go into this meeting, but before you go into this meeting, you start playing this whole movie in your mind of what is going to happen. Well, the boss is going to fire me, but it doesn't stop there. Catastrophization is very creative. Catastrophization goes to, okay, I'm going to be fired, and what's going to happen? I'm going to lose my house, and then what's going to happen from that? I can see myself out on the street, my children have nowhere to sleep, and I'm going to end up as a failure in life. So you take one incident, a simple meeting with your boss, and you make it into this catastrophe, but when there is no reason to no evidence to support that it's going to be a catastrophe. I have had interviews with some of my clients or counseling sessions with some of my clients where they're fearing this interview with their boss and they're telling me about how dreadful it's going to be. And I take them through this exercise of, let's look at the evidence. Is there evidence to suggest that this is likely to happen? And they will say things like, no, my last evaluation was wonderful. He praised me. And then they say, well, there is really nothing to worry about. But even despite the evidence to the contrary, people who catastrophize tend to focus on the negative. So it's really hilarious in a way that some of these individuals will come back after the meeting and I will say, well, what happened with the meeting with your boss? And they'll say, guess what, Michael, I got a promotion. He promoted me and I now have benefits. And so a lot of times catastrophization overlook the good things that are happening that could make you feel positive about your situation. And the fourth negative way of thinking is what we call all or nothing thinking. So all or nothing thinking could be used to describe individuals where they will have an interview and everything went well, but they made one simple mistake. And they go from there to say the entire thing is a failure. I will never get that job. Or it could be that it's in the performing arts and you do a performance where you performed wonderfully and you just missed one move, and you go from there to be the whole thing was a disaster. Or it could be in the area of academics, where you got back an exam mark and you made one mistake, so you end up with a 9 to 5 where you thought you were going to get 100, and the focus becomes on that 5% that you didn't get. And so you can't be happy because you made this what you consider a stupid mistake that could have gotten you that 100%. So are you guilty of all or nothing thinking? If you are, then it's very important for you to think about the way that you're thinking about situation and see if you can find the positives in situations that can bring about that can make you feel better about your situation. So next negative way of thinking is what we call mind reading. And mind reading is a way of thinking, a negative cognition or a cognitive distortion where you think you can read what's going on in people's mind. So someone passed you in the hallway in your church and didn't say hello in the way that they normally do, and you go home and you're ruminating over it over and over again, and you're telling yourself that they don't like you, they must have heard something bad about you, and you have no evidence for this, but you are thinking that you can read what's going on in the person's mind. Or maybe you see two of your co-workers talking at work and by the water cooler, and you're some distance away, and you go from there to say, they must be saying something bad about me. This kind of thinking spirals you down into depression. And so again, like with the other kinds of negative thinking, it's very important to ask yourself, is there any proof? Do I have any proof to think the way that I am thinking? And the final negative thought pattern is what we call personalization. And this is when you personalize events and situations. So for example, I know that that bus would break down just because I am in it. Or I knew that that day when I chose to have this picnic that it was going to rain because I chose that day. So even external circumstances that's outside of your control, that have nothing to do with you, you interpret that to mean that somehow it's connected to you. Personalization can also be in the form of social events. So a dinner that did not go well, and it could be, well, I know this dinner didn't go well because I didn't socialize with people that the way I did. This is why the dinner was a flop. This is why no one had fun, because I did not socialize that the way that I normally do. So you take on yourself a lot of responsibility for the way things turn out. And the truth is, many of these things have nothing to do with you. So there you have it. These 6 forms of cognitive distortion, 6 forms of thinking that kills your mood and make you depressed. It's very important for you to try to change these patterns of thinking, because by changing them, not only will it get you out of depression, but it could actually change your life. Until next time, this is Michael Hart of Elim Counseling Services. Thank you very much for watching this video. And if you like this video, remember to subscribe. You can also consider supporting us by making a donation to this ministry, because by making a donation, we're able to offer subsidized counseling to many who are in need but cannot pay. But we can also keep these podcasts going to help others. So remember to subscribe, and please consider making a donation. Thank you very much for listening.